Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2 is probably going to be booked, regardless of what the UFC has been wanting. They kind of shied away from Robert Whittaker, but he's on a 3-fight win streak now. So he beat Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, and now Kelvin Gastelum. And just to put things into perspective, he's won 12 out of 13 of his last fights. So let's just say that he never faced Israel Adesanya. Maybe Israel Adesanya doesn't exist in this world, but I hope he does exist in the world. Sorry, but he would be on a 12-fight win streak. 12 fights. Like, nobody really does that anymore, right? There are a lot of people that get close to that figure, but not many people actually achieve double-digit win streaks. And somebody of that caliber should be pushed, should be given more opportunities, should be given some sort of acknowledgement for his accomplishments. And I feel like Robert Whittaker is kind of been pushed away. The UFC has kind of shied away from Robert Whittaker. Israel Adesanya was on this journey. So prior to the Jan Blachowicz loss, there was this roadmap where Izzy was going to go and face Jan Blachowicz because he's already beat all these middleweights. He's already cleared out the division. He's going to go face Jan Blachowicz. He's going to beat him. Then he's going to go to heavyweight, where John Jones is now the heavyweight champion, and he's going to face John Jones for the title and be a 3-weight class division champion. Well, that kind of went sour with Jan Blachowicz. Now, the idea of Israel Adesanya going back to light heavyweight and winning the title, that's a whole different video. I think there's still time for him to go back up there. But now that his sights are back onto middleweight, and the UFC is kind of put in a position where they can't really put Izzy back in the cage with Jan Blachowicz, even though it was kind of a close fight, contrary to what some people believe. I don't think the UFC is going to go with that path. They're going to refocus him on middleweight and let him build himself back up. Now, at the top of the middleweight division, the contenders, really there's only 2 people left that have a case to fight for the title. Now, the other fighters in that division have an opportunity to win in the near future and get a title shot, but in this situation right now, it is Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori. Now, Marvin is on a long win streak. He's beat Kevin Holland. He's beaten Jack Hermanson. But the problem is he hasn't really broke into that top 5, right? That top 5 range where Robert Whittaker has been for a lot of this time. He's been there for a very long time. I would sway towards Robert Whittaker getting that matchup over Marvin. Not because Marvin doesn't deserve it. Yes, Marvin is the fresher matchup. He also lost to Israel Adesanya, but that was a while ago. That was like on his second fight, I believe, in the UFC. But Robert Whittaker just has more of a resume. He's been beating these fighters, yes, by decision, but he's been beating these fighters, and he's been demonstrating that he is a high-level middleweight. So he doesn't necessarily have the flashiest technique. He doesn't have the flashiest game plans. He goes in there, uses his speed, uses his stand-up, clinches, wrestles a bit, and just beats down his opponents. He wears them down, and he wins the fight. And he's done that 12 out of 13 of his last fights. Now, not to make any excuses for Robert Whittaker, but when he came and when he faced Israel Adesanya and lost, he was on a very, very long layoff. I believe he got ill, and he was in a dire situation, but he recovered, thankfully, and he came back and he faced Israel Adesanya. Now, ring rust is a different topic where we can discuss whether or not ring rust applies to every fighter. Where does it apply? Does it even matter at all? But Robert Whittaker took how long? It was a year and a half layoff before facing Izzy for the title. Now, Robert Whittaker is an elite fighter, but to face Israel Adesanya on that long of a layoff is a factor in my opinion when it comes into that matchup. Now, do I think that that's the only reason why Robert Whittaker lost? No, right? There's other reasons why Robert Whittaker lost. His game plan, the way that he approached that fight, it was just a equation for disaster, as we saw in the fight. Now, we're probably gonna, once this fight is officially announced, we're gonna go over and see who wins in our opinion, and how it happens and whatnot. It's gonna be fun to watch, but for now, I think this fight is just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before these guys finally collide with each other again. It's been a very long time since they last fought, and I feel like this is the time. 2021 is going to be the start of Israel Adesanya's victory lap, where he has to go through the middleweight division again. All the greats have done it, right? All the greats have done it. Anderson Silva rematches across the board. George St. Pierre rematches across the board. The list goes on. John Jones really had 2 rematches, but you get my point, right? Eventually, you have to beat these guys again, right? You have to prove that even though you beat them the first time, and they've gone on to develop and face other fighters and stuff like that, they still are not as good as you. You are the better fighter, not only on that night, but you are the better fighter overall. So now these guys will face each other, and it looks like they're trying to push, or it was suggested by Robert Whittaker to have this in the stadium. Now, I don't know the virus situation going on in Australia and how stringent they are about stadiums and stuff like that, but a matchup between them could break records. The first one broke records, and I feel like this rematch is probably bigger than the first one. Both of the fighters have kind of ascended a little bit higher in the UFC, popularity, in their skill sets, just overall, they've just become better and bigger people in the world. And I feel like that fight it's just a matter of time for it to happen.